I think I think that America is brainwashed. I think North America is brainwashed. I think the planet is brainwashed to believe that this is a real reality and that this is, that this is really what it is. And there is so much more beyond this reality. And it's astrologically Pluto transiting into Aquarius is the big one because America is about to have its Pluto return. So Pluto is our planet of collective karma, and in Aquarius it asks, what does it mean to be human? Hi everybody, my name is Jana Stern. I am a psychic and an astrologer, and I live in Toronto, Canada. Um, I have been working in the world of wellness for coming up on 15 years, and I had a near-death experience prior to that that really shaped the trajectory that I have taken. A little background about me is that my father was mentally ill when I was a child. He is still till this day. And when I was young, I began to understand that hearing voices was a negative thing. And I immediately understood that the gift that I was given of being able to hear crystals and spirit and God and the universe, I started to associate that with hearing voices and the negativity and the spirals that my father was on. And the more that I saw him spiral, the more that I was fearful to let myself actually dive in and let myself be gifted. So over the years, I started to tell myself, no, I don't want to hear those thoughts. I don't want to hear those voices. I don't want to receive these messages. It's invasive. It's bothersome. People think I'm crazy. I can't always explain what I know. And so I started to shut down the gifts. And the more that I did that, the crazier I felt. And in my 20s, I had developed a very serious eating disorder that I was going to go into treatment for. And just before I did, I was trying to figure out what the right medications were for my newly diagnosed borderline personality, bipolar. They were unsure of what the diagnosis was. And in figuring out the medications, I got frustrated and dumped all the bottles onto my coffee table, swallowed 70 pills, and was dead for 11 minutes before they brought me back. And on the other side of coming back, I realized that I had a purpose. It took me a little while to live that purpose and to feel good about it. But I realized that I was here for a reason, that I had come back into my body for a reason, and I remember it being a choice. While I was on the other side, I could choose if I wanted to return or not, and I chose to return because I realized that I was going to inflict a lot of suffering in my loved ones who were still alive, and that I had had it backwards, that all of the things that I was trying to suppress in myself were actually the most beautiful parts of me, were actually the most vibrant, magnificent things about me. And so now where I am in life is that I get to live in that beauty, in that expression. I get to help others to understand where they're in their own way and the things that might be blocking them from living in their most godly self. And so, I get to live my magic, which is super special. When I talk about the other side, I always talk about the idea that we come from a quantum infiniteness. And in the quantum space, everything is possible, and time doesn't exist. Reality doesn't exist in the way that we believe that it does. And when I was on the other side, there was this just like deep feeling of peace and a connection with the parts of me that felt whole. When I had my attempt, I was feeling very desperate. I was feeling out of control. I was feeling lonely. I was yearning for something more meaningful, something that felt more purposeful and something that was like actually important in this world. I felt so insignificant. I felt like a waste of time, a waste of space, that I was just separate. And when I was on the other side, there was this connection to something so much bigger than me, this quantum self, this self that is connected to the all that is of the universe. And when I felt that connection and understood that, oh my God, I'm part of everything, I was like, I gotta come back. I gotta tell them. And so it took a little while to get that message into my consciousness, but once it did, it just pushed on forwards. And I understood, it was like immediately as soon as I came back, I understood that I had to use my voice and speak about other people's stability and what we believe is real and what is not real, what is psychic and what is psycho, and start to bridge the gap between those two, because there's a clear misunderstanding about what normal should be, what neurotypical even is. And, you know, in a world where technology is advancing and things are speeding up so quickly, we need minds that move really fast. We need those brains, and we need people who can access the other side. We need psychics. We need people to tap into their own psychic gifts, and I believe everybody has a psychic gift. So the message very clearly was, tell the people that there is a different reality than the one that they have understood. And I've watched the trajectory of this changing over the course of the past 15 years, where suddenly everybody has some diagnosis and they're proud of it. They're proud to be on some spectrum. They're proud to be, you know, part of a neuro divergence, and to be, you know, different, because normal is no longer the thing that anybody wants to be, you know, especially after the pandemic. So I very much let myself start to step into what it meant that I could hear these voices, and I stopped judging them as, quote, crazy, and started to allow that maybe there was a reason that these messages were coming through. And the more I let them come through, the more all of a sudden I was able to take my tarot deck or my oracle deck on the street and read a total stranger's cards, and then have them sobbing on the street because their mother came through, or their brother, or some other being that they had lost, some other person that they had loved and lost came through. And I kept thinking, but I always do this. And the more that I thought back to my childhood, the more that I remembered I always had gifts. I always had an ability to hear crystals. I could always tap in with the seashells. I was a kid who collected things, and I know that when we look into what it means to be psychic, which is to say to tap in with our clair senses, our ability to see, to visualize a reality that is different than the one that we are in, our ability to hear spirit, to receive messages, to know that there is something else for us, that we should make this choice or shouldn't make just that choice, or that, you know, to even taste or smell things and know that there's a message being received from the universe for us as we are creating this reality, you know, like virtual reality. The messages that we are receiving are meant to guide us, and we all have these gifts, but we are taught that they are not normal, which is why everyone's like, oh, okay, well, I'm not normal. Well, yeah, because you're psychic like everybody else. So there's this big shift in that happened in me after my NDE that was like, you are here to give this gift, to be this gift, and let yourself be weird. You've never been normal. You never fit in. I was 4 years old the first time that my father was institutionalized, and everybody in my very small community knew about it. Everyone in my school knew about it, and I was always on the outside. I was always weird. I was always loud. I was always, you know, very, very clear. Like, I always had the ability to give messages to people, to guide my friends, to, you know, help them with their boy problems, or tell them what to say when they're fighting with their mom, or whatever it was. And suddenly I understood that's because I'm a channel. that's because I can hear voices that are actually meant to guide me and others along the way, and that the people that I meet are guiding me and I am guiding them, that we've manifested one another for a reason in this reality, that the things that I'm creating and the people I'm attracting is all just to arrive at a better humanity. And that became very clear to me when I was on the other side. The message really that for humanity is that if we do not treat ourselves better, if we are not kinder to ourselves, if we do not get out of our own way and stop trying to fit into these three-dimensional boxes and allow ourselves to express ourselves in five-dimensional or more ways, if we don't allow ourselves to go higher, to tap into the cosmos, to, rely on astrology, to really start to use these psychic muscles collectively and start to train and to learn about what is actually possible when you learn how to control your mind. I think it's already collapsing. I think that, we can see that for sure in pop culture, things like the Diddy case. We can see it in the way that the US elections are looking right now, and just the tumultuousness of all of it and how much it feels like it's riding on things and everybody's just chosen their side, and we've forgotten that humanity will be okay no matter who's in power. The left wing, the right wing, it's the same bird, it doesn't really even matter, but we've gotten so stuck. And I think that we're starting to see the downfall or the breakdown of that system. And I think that the only thing that would stop that collapse is the individuals and their fears of what it might mean to let go of reality as they knew it. And I gotta believe that the revolution will happen. Otherwise, this is a reality that I don't want to even know what comes next. I gotta hope that something will give. I hope that the system is already on its way out, and this is why we are experiencing things like late-stage capitalism and things like that, because we recognize this is the end of something. It's gotta be ending soon. What I will say is there are two very clear choices, and one choice is about a comfortable lie, and one is about an uncomfortable truth. And I think that if the American people choose the comfortable lie, we will head into a serious nightmare, because people need to look at the truth. We need to know the true monsters that are under the bed. And we need to uncover who was on those lists, who was at those parties, who was on those planes, who's on those islands, who was harming who was pulling the strings. These are big strings that are way bigger than the American, than America. Like they're global issues that affect people all over the world, and America as a superpower is going to serve some big karma regardless. If the other party wins, there's going to be a lot of reckoning. There's going to be a lot of people who are desperately uncomfortable. There will be a lot of wealthy people who will have to pay for what they've done. And there will be a lot, and it will be interesting to see who has been playing naughty and who has been playing nice. And I think that I don't want to say one or the other, but I hope that the truth comes to the foreground. I pray every day, and I feel relatively comfortable saying that, and I've said this for many, many years, but the truth will always out. So no matter who wins, I pray that the truth comes forward. But it'll be interesting to see what the free will of the American, theoretically free people. I think they're the most oppressed people in so many different ways. I think they're so I think that America is brainwashed. I think North America is brainwashed. I think the planet is brainwashed to believe that this is a real reality, and that this is, that this is really what it is, and there is so much more beyond this reality. And it's so, from what I understand, there is a energy that is bigger than us all, that is pulling the strings, a sort of an entity, if you will, that is pulling the strings. And I think that there are people on this planet who work for that entity, that want for that control, and I think we're seeing the end of it. And I think that this is the first time I'm saying this out loud, but I think that Donald Trump will win. I think he will win, and I think he will force that truth to come out. I think he will, because he's not afraid to say ugly things. He's not afraid to say things that are ugly. And that doesn't mean that the things he says are good to say. He says a lot of nasty things, but I think he'll win, because I think that the American people want for truth. And, I think Kamala being unable to give a clear answer to direct questions is uncomfortable for people. Perhaps in 2020 that would have flown, but in 2024 people are over it. They're like, you've been lying to us. We had to hide ourselves in the house for this many months, and then we were, vaccine passports, and you said we were all going to die if we didn't get it, and we're fine. And we don't want to be lied to anymore. And it seems like you're making decisions, and you somehow got into this position, and nobody remembers putting you in that seat. But there you are, and we don't want you. So yeah, that's my hope, and it is my prediction. But we'll see. There's free will. It could be anything. Don't come for me in the comments. Pluto and Aquarius is definitely talking about the election. It's transiting almost exactly at the same time as the election, and the election is going to be an intense one. The thing that I'm feeling about it is that there will be a reckoning. There will be a reckoning, and that might look like what some would call a civil disagreement collectively, and there's a lot of people in that country with a lot of guns. So I don't know what will happen next, but I do know that it's really it's a pivotal moment in human history. This moment, it really, really is. And astrologically, Pluto transiting into Aquarius is the big one, because America is about to have its Pluto return. So Pluto is our planet of collective karma, and in Aquarius it asks, what does it mean to be human? What is the truth? What is real? And Aquarius can be very aloof, but they are brilliant. They are geniuses. And so when Pluto goes there, it's really asking us, where is the genius here? So America's going to have to ask the question, where is their genius, and where are they just being aloof? Where have they manipulated many, many, many other countries over their history? Where have they caused war? Where have they, been proxies to war? Where have they been funding horrific things? Where have they been trafficking people? Where, all of these terrible things. Forget about also how their country began, and the massacre of Native people, and then the enslavement of Black people from around the world, bringing them to their country. I mean, they have some karma that they gotta eat. So that happening at the time of this election is, I don't know, I'm like, who's making these decisions for when the election happens? Because don't you know about this transit? Don't you know? But they do know, and that is kind of the kicker, is that they exactly know. And so this is why I say that there is this energy, this entity that is bigger than us all, that is as big as the cosmos, that is pulling some strings and wanting for there to be deep discomfort, for there to be lack, for there to be fear, for there to be this sort of dense, low vibration that, most people in the world, especially in America, don't want anymore. And Pluto, coming back around is gonna be very interesting for them. I have a lot of popcorn to just sit back from my Canadian perspective and watch what's happening because it's gonna be big. I think that we're already seeing a lot of globalization, which I think is fantastic. I think cryptocurrency is really flipping the script because there already exists a global currency and it's called Bitcoin. And it is changing the ways that countries agree upon things without exchanges, and tariffs. There are like these beautiful ways of actually understanding that, oh my goodness, I have resources and you have resources. Why do we need the dollar? Why do we need this middleman, this like kind of evil superpower in the middle when they don't care about us, they're exploiting us. And so, we're starting to see that the planet is already exchanging energy differently and agreeing to different things, and beginning to align themselves differently. We're really starting to understand who is on this side and who is on that side, who is for the American oppression that's been going on globally, this like, sort of economic, like like economic colonization almost, that they've been colonizing the world with their dollar. We've seen it, and I think that the rest of the world, no matter what happens actually in the election, although I think that if Trump wins, he'll have a better handle on things. I think he's a good businessman, if nothing else. I think, sure, good, he's had losses financially as a businessman, but he's also had a lot of wins, and I think that bodes well for somebody running a country. I think that especially because mostly America is a business. It's basically the corporation of America, so it thoughts that he would run a corporation. But yeah, I think that regardless, the world is trending in the direction of, we don't want you in our business unless you're going to do good business with us. We would rather do business with somebody who's going to, with a country that's perhaps not as rich, but going to keep its word and not, start a civil war in our country so that they can have power. We would rather do business with somebody who's not going to do that. So we're going to start to really see a lot of that evolution, and a lot of the, because in a lot of places where, like, that are outside of the United States, there is this understanding of they're not that important. I mean, they're important, but they're not that important. They're just people. They're just people. They're just a country. They're just America. And the less importance that we give something, and the less that we focus on that, and the more that we focus on what we want to feel, what we want to connect with, what we want to vibrate with, our vibration rises. This is manifestation 101, right? If you wish to go higher, you gotta let go of the lower vibrations. And so we're gonna see that in the economy for sure. We're gonna see a lot of countries just being like, yeah, I think that so long as we continue to raise our vibration and create aligned businesses and contracts with companies and countries that are trying to save our planet and do less business, vote less with our dollar, I think that we'll be able to really repair our planet. I don't think that we are beyond repair. I don't think that Earth's issues are beyond fixing. I think that the economy doesn't thrive if we don't fix it. Well, sorry, let me say that differently. The economy only thrives if we exploit the planet, as it has been. So the capitalism wants to exploit. It exploits people, it exploits the planet, it exploits pretty much everything and keeps everything in that vibration. Whereas when we start to make alliances and focus on actually funding people who do things like cure cancer and help people live longer and, invest in things like the mushrooms that eat plastics and, global cooling and working up to actually cool the planet a little bit. There are so many there are people who protect the whales, there are people who protect the oceans, and these people have been living, some of them for decades, so dirt poor, just trying to like protect the coral reef, or, suffering just to make sure that the, polar bears aren't dying. We need to be putting money towards that. We need to be funding that, and then once we move the energy, which is all that money is, it's just an energy exchange. Once we move the energy exchange towards things that actually matter on this planet, like other people and the planet itself, instead of how can we exploit this, how can we, take the crude oils out of the earth, how can we extract more plastics, how can we, produce more clothing, etc., etc., etc. And then, of course, all of those systems exploit in terrible ways in the most vicious, parts of humanity with, child labor and things like that. It's horrific. And we need to just cognitively, consciously stop paying for things that are, quote, cheap, because we know that they hurt people. And so, yeah, we'll see that the planet will heal itself. But again, I'm a big believer. The planet is only going to heal itself if people heal themselves. If people are willing to get uncomfortable, like I was sharing earlier, if they're willing to get uncomfortable with some really uncomfortable truths about what is going on this planet and what is actually happening that we cannot see, until they do that, then we're doomed. Then again, that this dystopia where everything is gray and miserable and we scorch the skies and Bill Gates blocks out the sun and we don't see the light of day anymore, and they're just trying to cool the planet. But are they really, or are they just trying to keep us miserable? And already it's way out of control, and it's getting further and further out of control. And I know I sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I don't really care, because every time I tap in, Spirit tells me this is not it. You got to make sure that people, are aware that there are people and energies in power that need to go. Everybody will feel whole and complete. It's almost radical to think about a world where everybody eats well across the globe, where there is no debt, there is no owing of anything to anyone, there is no, quote, ownership, there is no, there is no suppression of any kind. There's just an equality, an understanding that no person is above another person. No country has the right to do, to oppress another peoples. If there's no war will go away, famine will go away. All of these things, like truly a utopian society becomes the norm when we are moving into this collective consciousness. Because if I hurt me in any way, if I belittle myself, if I hurt my neighbor in any way, then I am automatically creating dissonance, and the dissonance just divides and divides and divides and divides. But if I am creating this unity, the unity just keeps growing and growing and growing and growing and growing and expanding, and then eventually the whole world becomes like in this soft bubble instead of in this compression like machine, which is kind of how it feels. It feels like we're being smushed into smithereens right now. It feels like everybody is in the pressure cooker, and what we need to do is breathe, get a little bit of oxygen, and to recognize that we play a much bigger role than we let ourselves believe. We play the biggest role there is, and this is why I love astrology, because it tells you the role that you were born for, the gifts that you have from birth, the ways that you can communicate, the ways that you can discern, the ways that you are able to guide, to lead, to follow, to to whatever it might be, to express yourself. And so we need to start to understand these tools so that we can get out of the mind and get into the crown. because that at this moment, from a chakra perspective, we're stuck here. Nobody has a fully open crown. Nobody. But if we all opened our crowns tomorrow, we would live in an entirely different world. Yeah, if you have questions or comments, please, that are loving, please feel free to leave them down below. I'm happy to respond. If you'd like to connect on every single social media, you can find me at Jana Stern Healing, or at Jana Stern Healer. So that's JANASTERNHEALER. And my website is janastern.com. Yeah, just send me a DM with the message "Better Future," and I will send you a little gift your way, maybe even drop you a little line. So thank you all, and we'll be seeing you soon.